sorry. Okay, we're starting now. We're Bikini Kill, and we want revolution! Girls don't know! Hey, girlfriend! I got a proposition, goes something like this. Tell you to do what you want. Tell you to be who you will. Tell you to cry right out loud. You got so emotional, baby. Girl, fucking friend, yeah. Girl. I'm a little girl at the picnic who wants a pulling a dress up. It doesn't matter. Is it guitar now? It doesn't matter. Listen to radio. What the fuck is written all over your pretty face? The gaps in teeth, the dirty nails. Maybe, boy, you can kill what's fucking real. Turn that song down, turn the static up. Come here, baby, let me kiss you like a third time.
Alright, I'm rolling. Alright, Stay long.
Oh, okay. Okay, there's one. Okay, I actually haven't told this story before. I've had some interesting stories.
Oh, what an interesting question.
I mean, I have some cringy stories. Yeah, I remember, and I felt kind of shitty about this, but I got cast in a role because a guy had a crush on me.
I've heard like countless stories of women getting harassed, or like if you sleep with me, you get this role, or if you fuck with this person, then you're gonna get higher up or you get a bigger pay.
I feel like I've been in the position where they don't take me serious, about what I'm doing.
There's a lot of gear talk. I feel like a lot of it's like, oh, what camera do you shoot on? What gear do you have? Oh, if you don't own this gear, like, are you really a filmmaker?
I've been really lucky.
Yeah.
I haven't had really terrible experiences. I mean, there have been some dicey ones, some questionable casting situations and that sort of thing. I think it's harder for women, definitely, just because the industry is mainly men, and what men are interested in are probably men's stories.
Men, of course, want to sexualize me and think that they can either talk to me or get closer to me through my craft and through what I do, which is so not true.
I know from as an actor, when I go on a set and I am surrounded by all men, I feel like, hey, is my nips popping out? What's happening? There's no one there to look out for me. If there's even one woman on set, I'm like, hey girl, just please watch.
Of course, being that this industry is started off as predominantly men, I'm actually happy to see that women are coming up and being recognized for the hard work that they are doing.
There are a lot more women in the camera department now, but I still feel like a lot of the people in the higher positions are mostly men, and I do think that there is a lot more work that can be done.
I remember being a kid watching movies and like the female character had very little lines, or if she had lines, it was just like unintelligent. I was like, yeah, but I would never say that if I was in that situation. So I remember one movie where the lady was like on the roof waiting for the hero to show up, and she like shows up in lingerie, is like, take me. And I'm like, who does that? It's cold, cover those up. You understand?
Beauty standards are a big thing. People pay attention to pretty people. Pretty privilege is very real, and so it's very much, it's something that I'm conscious of, even aging. I just turned 29 and I'm like, I'm nearing 30. Am I aging out of my profession already?
Overall, like the broad
way of thinking is that a director position is mainly male. Just from what I've seen, I don't know too many female directors.
A guy will come in and say something like, let's do this, and it could be my DP, and I want it another way, and we kind of just go back and forth on it, and it kind of feels like, because they may have had more experience than I did, they were like, well, this is how it should be done, and I know. But then I'll look back at it and be like, well, I can see why I wanted it this way.
I feel really fortunate to be in America. I feel very fortunate to be in this time and place because we've come so far.
It's really exciting to see people, actors that have invested in themselves and other women, like Elizabeth Banks, Kerry Washington, Reese Witherspoon, actors with giant budgets starting to make their own films. Truth is, if you ask them, it's because they were no longer being cast or they weren't being cast in a film that they liked.
Directors, producers, it's not just the pretty face anymore. There's so much more out there. So I think that, we've come a long way. We still have a way to go, but I say we've come a long way and we should celebrate that.
Since the dawn of cinema, women have been pioneers at the forefront of it all. While male counterparts like Georges Méliès and Louis Lumière were some of the first credited filmmakers, the world's first female filmmaker was Elise Guy Blaché. In 1896, French director Elise Guy Blaché created what was to be known as the first ever female-directed short film, titled The Cabbage Fairy. She eventually wrote, produced, and directed over 1,000 films and became owner of one of France's leading film studios. She was one of the first to experiment with sound syncing, color tinting, interracial casting, and special effects. In 1912, she was even the first to hire an all-black cast. In addition, Florence Lawrence became the first movie star after her debut in 1907's Daniel Boone, alongside Mary Pickford. Another pioneer of filmmaking was Lois Weber. She became the highest-paid director of the silent film era and became the first woman to write, produce, direct, and star in a movie. Weber addressed social issues like abortion, capital punishment, and discussions about race throughout her highly groundbreaking filmography. As the 1920s came around, talkies and the innovation of sound began to dominate the industry. Bullish male producers began to barge their way into the once thriving female-dominated space. Pushing women into smaller roles like marketing, writing, and makeup. The industry began to draw in more money, pushing out female-owned production companies. As movie studios unionized, many refused to accept women as members. Female film producers, directors, editor, and cinematographer roles vanished as a result. With the exception of Lois Weber, from 1927 to 1943, only one other woman was working as a director in Hollywood: Dorothy Arzner. Arzner launched the careers of a number of actresses, including Katharine Hepburn and Lucille Ball. She was also the first woman to direct a film with sound.
I know you want me to tear my clothes off so as you can look your 50 cents worth. 50 cents for the privilege of staring at a girl the way your wives won't let you. What do you suppose we think of you up here? With your silly smirks your mothers would be ashamed of.
In 1933, Sarah Y. Mason won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for Little Women, while Eleanor Griffin won Best Original Screenplay in 1938 for Boys Town.
I seen that picture anyway. I seen it in Madison. No good? Terrible. Buck rides over the hill, shoots a bandit, rides back over the hill, scoops up the gal. They all live happy ever after. Nothing to it.
As the 1940s were around the corner, the golden age of Hollywood began to crumble, and female screenwriters and editors had lost considerable ground.
I think seeing women in film for me was inspirational because I've always regarded, that strength as being a person that could persevere and continue on and get through things.
Gosh, and that's something that I didn't really think much about as a kid. I was used to seeing the Disney princess movies, but even then, the princesses didn't look like me.
We're emotional. We're too over the top.
Women are too emotional.
Being too emotional.
Some people say that women can be emotional, which is a stereotype in and of itself.
I feel like a lot of that becomes a bad thing, and I don't think it is at all a bad thing to be emotional.
It was just like, oh, directing a film is a man's thing or whatever. That was one big stereotype, and it was kind of discouraging to myself and maybe other people that was trying to grow up and be a woman director in film.
Scantily clad, subservient, needing somebody to save you. But you are seeing more, which is really exciting over the last 20 years. You are seeing women. I love Jennifer Lawrence and The Hunger Games, and Angelina Jolie, kicking ass in the movies that she does. So you are starting to see that more, which is very exciting.
A lot of women just think like, oh, I need to be an actress. I don't know what else I can do. Or everybody associates a female in film with makeup. That's like the stereotype, or hair.
I remember watching Jurassic Park, and I just think that's such a well-done movie. I love the female characters in that movie. I love that they are like a full person, like that girl, the little kid, the teenage girl, she's super neurotic and she is super annoying. It's such a freak, right? But I know people like that. I love the relationship she has with her brother. I love the relationship that she builds with those two archaeologists. She was amazing, right? She just sticks her whole hand into a pile of shit and she's out here like figuring things out. And it was really good, right?
My favorite actress of all time is Audrey Hepburn. I love that when she came on the scene, she was unusual, right? Like the movie star of the day was the blonde bombshell. And here comes Audrey Hepburn, who's the exact opposite, with those big eyes and beautiful skin and ethereal looking and tiny and, petite and everything. And she blew everyone away.
Just recently, I've been really following like Michelle Yeoh's story. When Everything Everywhere All at Once, when they won like so many awards, I think it was so surreal to me to see her up there and talk about it. And what was really powerful for me was just hearing her like say like, don't let anybody stop you and tell you you're too old for this.
The Color Purple made me feel inspired that I can do it, especially with Whoopi Goldberg starring in it, and then just seeing like a phenomenal cast of predominantly Black men and women. That right there actually inspired me.
Hayao Miyazaki, Kiki's Delivery Service. I can really relate to Kiki's story of leaving her home and going outside of her comfort zone to try to understand her power and where she fits in the world.
One of my movies that I watched on repeat was Pirates of the Caribbean, because I was obsessed with Keira Knightley and how she, like, in the first 3 movies, took over the role of, like, pirate queen. I was like, okay, women in power, okay.
Hidden Figures. One, it was the power behind it, showing that the perseverance and the strength that it takes for anybody, especially women, but women of color, to come through and pursue that in NASA's almost not heard of.
I think I felt like there wasn't a lot of people to look up to that looked like me. And so I felt really lonely in that sense too, where it felt like, okay, like, am I being crazy for having this dream of like pursuing becoming a cinematographer?
I was raised sometimes to understand that when you show up in a space, you're a woman, which is a strike against you, and you're Black, that's a strike against you. So when you show up with the nicest clothes, you show up with the best material, you be the most professional person, you be the best in the room.
As a person who is committed to their own evolution, it is important that I represent women in the film industry from a new place, a higher place, not a place that was given to me in society, a place that I have given and created for myself.
Its streets are filled with the studios, homes, and landmarks that are monuments to its greatness. Let's go Hollywood backstage and see this unique and fascinating place called Hollywood.
In the 1940s, television was Hollywood's biggest competition. In response, Hollywood chose to broadcast the Academy Awards for the first time ever in 1953. Despite continuing challenges for female advancement, some screenwriters persisted. Screenwriters such as Edna Anhalt, Ruth Orkin, and Sonia Levian for Interrupted Melody in 1955. Barring the creative inequalities, another important director came along during the 1950s. She began as an actress and later transitioned to directing. Her name was Ida Lupino, and she would go on to become one of the biggest and only female directors working at that time. She also owned her own production company and used it to tell socially conscious stories on topics covering unwed pregnancy, along with her film titled Outrage. One of the first ever to discuss issues of rape.
Is that the man, Miss Walton?
I can't remember. I can't.
That's all right. Take your time.
I don't know.
She was also the first woman to direct a film noir, with 1953's The Hitchhiker.
Face front. And keep driving.
Lupino is widely regarded as one of the most important feminist filmmakers of her era. She had a short career, but it spans with highly influential works tackling themes of women trapped by social conventions. She was the only woman to direct an episode of the original Twilight Zone, as well as over 100 television episodes spanning from the Western genre, comedy, and gangster stories. In light of Lupino's work being a bright spot in the industry, many women were forced out of work after World War II. In the 50s, Hollywood struggled, as families were moving into suburban areas and drive-ins became all the rage. During this time, new trust-busting laws were passed, and studios were no longer allowed to own their own theaters. The studio system began to break up. The women who were editors and screenwriters lost even more ground. However, female costume designers flourished, winning in every year of the fading decade. A real milestone was reached when actress Dorothy Dandridge became the first black female to earn an Academy Award nomination for her performance in Carmen Jones.
I don't account to no man.
You're accounting to me. I love you, and that gives me the
I
right
don't give you
to...
no right to own me. There's only one that does. That's me, myself.
In the 1960s, even fewer women were working in Hollywood. Some women were still working as editors, but only received one win for an Oscar, given to Anne V. Coates for Lawrence of Arabia in 1963. The 70s proved to begin evening the playing field once again for women in film. The emergence of the women's liberation movement began breaking down the walls of Hollywood. Women began forming their own production companies again and became their own writers and cinematographers. This was true for movies like 1977's Slapshot, written by Nancy Dowd.
And there's no one to stop it because there are no officials on the ice.
Additionally, the film was edited by Dee Dee Allen, who was the first to demand and receive a percentage of a film's profits. In 1974, Julia Phillips broke the glass ceiling and became the first female film producer to win an Oscar for Best Picture with The Sting.
You can imagine what a trip this is for a Jewish girl from Great Neck. Tonight I get to win an Academy Award and meet Elizabeth Taylor all in the same moment. Thank you so much.
As the 80s and 90s arrived, there was real promise for female filmmakers and storytellers on the horizon. But only time would tell if the story for women in filmmaking would thrive the same as it once did.
I think it's taught me to see the world with bigger eyes almost. You know what I mean? Like there's so many stories out there. There's so many people who have so many wonderful things to share. So I love getting to meet all these interesting people and hear their stories and find out about them.
I think it has helped me to realize my own purpose and what I want to communicate. What do I want, my own life or my own message to be in life? And so through filmmaking, I'll be able to better understand what it is that I want people to see.
I can write, I can direct. I never thought I could direct. Like, that's not even a thing that I really thought of. But I definitely learned, like, my capabilities are way higher than what I thought they are.
Being an actress has definitely taught me fortitude. It's like, do you want to keep pushing for this career? How much do you love it? And I realized that I loved being on set and loved being able to tell stories so much. And being an actress, I realized my inner strength that I could keep going. I could work 2 jobs if I needed to.
I challenge the way people see things, because I think there's a lot that we don't see and we maybe even try to ignore to some degree. But I'm definitely the one to point the finger and say, bring this to the forefront. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about, things that are really going on.
What I want is, and what you are seeing, is I do think women are really good at lifting each other up. And, I'm on this project, I'm going to bring you on this project or do introductions. I think I'm not saying men are not good at that, but I think women are really good at that because there's just a smaller opportunity right now of us working in that field. So that's a part of it that I like, that I think everybody should take seriously, is try to create opportunities for other people if you can.
I want to see a story. I know that if I were 16 and I had seen a story about a girl 15 years my senior that was still trucking along and plucking along and trying to live her dream, whether it was acting or not, but it was in a story format, that would have changed the game for me.
I want to see original stories. I am so, I'm so fucking sick and tired of the remakes. I'm sick and tired of the remakes. I'm sick and tired of the reboots. I'm like, give me original stories. Something that's like Disney. Come on, man. Where are you making the same? We've seen how many versions of Cinderella, okay? We've seen how many versions of Snow White. Just give me something that I'm gonna love to. I'm so sick. Fast and Furious is what, 10 movies now? Come on, give me something that's going to excite me to go back to the movies.
And I think it's important for not just us to tell our stories. We love your stories. We love the stories for men and support that. And I think that women aren't just telling women's stories. And so that's why I think that having women in film is not necessarily we're going to fill the movie theater with women. I think you can make great films with women and men in the audience.
I would love to see multi-language films. I think we are becoming a very, very small world. We're much more aware of things that are happening everywhere. So I would love to see multi-language films. I would love to see films that span countries and people from countries, and how we are actually a very global population and we're just led to believe that we're not.
We're at an age now where a lot of people are getting tired and they say, oh, I've not made enough money now, I'm gonna quit and just go work here. Don't do that. Keep going, because the people who are around today are the ones who did not give up when everyone else gave up.
Respect yourself. Respect others, but respect yourself.
Just be authentically you.
Right. Film shorts, put them up on YouTube. I just want to see a more variety of stories, but don't be afraid to put yours out there, even though it's not normal, it's not with the mainstream, it's not on trend. It's, I don't know, just put it out there.
I've gotten DMs from other women saying that I've inspired them. Honestly, that's what keeps me going. It's sometimes when I'm I just want to, it's in the right time, somebody is oh my God, what you just did inspired me. And I'm you just don't know, I was just really about to just say, screw this.
A paycheck is the most addictive thing in America. And when you come into the film industry, you don't get that high. So you have to know what it is you are struggling and bleeding out for. You have to know that. And if you know that, then always try to keep your eye on the prize. And if you get to a point where you feel like this is too hard, I need to change my mind, I want to do something else, do it. Film will always be here.
Because we're badass. What? You can't just like what would happen? Like, imagine the film industry is just males. Do you think we'd ever have a film about a woman who's a scientist? Or would we ever have a woman that's a badass lawyer? Or like, we're never gonna have those stories, like maybe sometimes.
Watching women's film, donating money to women's film is important. But also, if you're a woman filmmaker, an actor, a videographer, a writer, to get involved and do it. Even if you have to, at first you're in college and you're an extra or you're doing something for free, the experience that you will get is invaluable and those contacts may lead to something. So my advice to somebody that's starting out is start.
Claim your feminine energy. Don't think that you have to be masculine. Lean into your softness, lean into your inner strength versus outer strength, lean into that vulnerability, because from that is gonna come stories that you won't get from anywhere else.
What are we using our voices for here, right? Are we just here to entertain, or are we here to teach? You know, are we here to connect and relate to others? If we want something new, we want change, then we have to be that change.
The 20th century was coming to a close, but in 1980, a significant event occurred for women when Sherry Lansing became president of 20th Century Fox.
4 years ago, everybody was saying there are no women directing pictures. Well, this year, 3 pictures came out that were very well received by women. There's been other women running studios, there's been other producers, there's been other women writers. So it's really quite an exciting time.
Following in her footsteps, more women were hired by major studios with increased decision-making power. However, the 21st century proved to be the most groundbreaking for the female filmmaker. In 2004, Sofia Coppola became the 3rd woman to be nominated for a Best Director Oscar with Lost in Translation.
The more you know who you are and what you want, the less you let things upset you.
Yeah. I just don't know what I'm supposed to be.
In addition, legendary editor Thelma Schoonmaker was the first to take home 2 Oscars, one in 2005 for The Aviator and one in 2007 for The Departed. Advancing to 2010, everything changed when director Kathryn Bigelow became the first woman ever to win an Oscar for directing with her film, The Hurt Locker.
How many bombs have you disarmed? I'm not quite sure. Sergeant. Yes. I asked you a question. 873. 800 and 73. 800 and 73.
In the entire history of American cinema, only 3 women have ever won the award for Best Director. Today, other trailblazing directors like Greta Gerwig, Julie Dash, Mira Nair, Chloe Zhao, Ava DuVernay, Patty Jenkins, Lulu Wang, and Kimberly Pierce, just to name a few. Each tackles social issues in their films. They're among a long line of generations of courageous women who have fought against sexism and misogyny, yet continue to persevere and succeed, albeit their challenges against big studios.
See you later. See you later.
We have come a long way in regards to storytelling and filmmaking, but yet still have a long ways to go. Stories, especially ones told from the female perspective, are so important in today's world in revealing the full picture of the human experience. Without revolutionary female directors, editors, producers, set designers, art directors, and writers all coming to the table, we are depriving ourselves as human beings of such an important viewpoint, especially with media being something that we increasingly consume every day. So I want to thank you for sharing your stories, your struggles, and your triumphs. And to keep writing, creating, and to keep kicking ass. Because honestly, I don't know of anything more punk than a female filmmaker.
We created it. Let's take it over. People try to put us down just because we can get around. I don't need that fucking shit. Hope I die because of it.
Why don't you all fade away? I dig what we ought to say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. Talking about my generation. My generation. My generation.
I think the most important thing as an artist, working in, whether you're an actor, a writer, producer, director, is you have to go into this process or this game or this business with your own personal mission statement in place.
Previously, it's, the association of women with sort of more emotional material and men with the apparatus, hardware, technique. Maybe is breaking down, and within a few years' time it'll no longer be an issue, who directed what, and it'll be, people will be hired based on their strengths and their focus and their inclination.
The kind of images we have of India, or even that part of the world, not just India, as you well know, it's never shown in all its complexity and modernity and what, the flexibility of life, how it keeps changing, But instead there are very either tragic images constantly or images that are like as old as the hills, that have nothing to do with what's happening now.
I'd always wanted to tell a story about my family, but I just didn't want it, the log line of it to be like immigrant family from China story. That's the story, right? I felt like I needed a vehicle, and particularly one that would show off the humor of the culture and of the family.
You don't have to go to film school. I went to art school. And art lets you become a plural person. Filmmaking makes you choose writer, director, cinematographer, lighting, grip, whatnot, behind the camera, in front of the camera, whatever. With art, it tells you how to think.
We found basically the ratio for women behind the camera is 5-to-1 if you look at director, producer, writer, cinematographer, editor, the top positions. So we also found that if there is a woman in one of those positions, the percentage of female characters on screen goes up. So we're not really getting the voices of women and the big picture when films are being created because there aren't enough women involved in the process.